The alarm screamed through the bridge of the HSS Resolve. Captain jumped from her chair and stared at the main screen. Her heart stopped for a moment. 37 ships had appeared from hyperspace. They were massive, they were armed, and they were not friendly. "Captain, we are receiving a transmission," said the young communications officer. His hands were shaking over his controls. "Put it through," said. Her voice was calm, but inside she felt cold fear spreading through her chest. A face appeared on screen. It was not human. The creature had gray skin, 4 eyes, and rows of small, sharp teeth. It spoke in a deep, rumbling voice. "Human vessel, I am Fleet Commander of the Dominion. Your colony has been selected for processing. You will surrender all 40,000 inhabitants. You have 6 hours. Resist, and you will be destroyed." The screen went dark. Silence filled the bridge. Looked at her crew. Her tactical officer was already checking weapons systems. The medical officer had gone pale. Young looked like he might be sick. "Captain," said quietly, "we have 2 patrol ships. They have 37 warships. Our weapons cannot even scratch their shields." Knew this, everyone knew this. The math was simple, they were dead. But down on the planet below there were 40,000 people, families, children, workers who had come to this distant mining colony to build better lives. They were counting on her. "Send a distress call to Coalition headquarters," ordered. "Maximum priority." His fingers flew across his console. Minutes passed. Then the reply came. "Coalition Command responds," Captain said. His voice cracked. "All available forces are engaged elsewhere. Estimated arrival of support is 14 standard days." 14 days. That had given them 6 hours. Closed her eyes. She thought about her mother back on Earth, her sister's children whom she had never met, the life she would never live. Then she opened her eyes and made her decision. "Contact the Steadfast," she said. "Tell Captain Bora to begin civilian evacuation immediately. Load as many people as possible and run." "And us?" Captain asked. "We stay, we fight, we buy time." The bridge was silent. Everyone understood what this meant. They were not going home. Nodded slowly. "I have been studying old Earth military files, Captain. Before we joined the Coalition, humans fought many wars against each other. We developed tactics that the galaxy considers barbaric, forbidden." "Show me," said. For the next hour they planned. The tactics were brutal. They involved flying directly at enemy ships, using their own vessel as a weapon, hiding bombs in escape pods, and fighting in ways that no civilized species would consider. The Coalition had rules for warfare: keep distance, preserve ships, retreat when outmatched. These rules made sense for species who valued survival above all else. But humans had never fully accepted these rules. Deep inside, they remembered older ways from when they were not masters of their world but prey struggling to survive. Ways that said sometimes you had to become the monster to defeat the monster. On the planet below, word spread quickly. Sergeant Major was in charge of the small ground defense force. She had 40 soldiers that would send thousands. She gathered the colonists in the main hall. Miners, engineers, teachers, doctors, ordinary people with ordinary lives. "They are coming," told them. "Help is 14 days away. We have 6 hours. I will not lie to you. Many of us will die." The crowd was silent. Children clung to their parents. Old men and women held hands. But continued, "We are not helpless. We have mining equipment. We have explosives. We have tunnels that run deep under this colony. And we have something they do not understand." She looked at the faces before her. Scared faces, determined faces, human faces. "We have each other, and we will not give up our children without a fight." A man stepped forward. His name was Minu. He was an engineer, not a soldier. His hands were rough from years of working with machines. "The atmospheric processors," he said. "I can modify them to release toxic gas if they enter certain areas, And the mining lasers, they were built to cut through rock. They can cut through armor too. Others began to speak. A teacher knew the tunnel systems better than anyone. A doctor could set up hidden medical stations. A grandmother had worked with explosives for 30 years. Within hours, the peaceful mining colony became a death trap. Back in orbit, watched the fleet move closer. Their deadline was approaching. "All hands," she announced over the ship's speakers. "In 10 minutes we will engage the enemy. Our mission is simple. Buy time. Every minute we survive is another minute for evacuation. Every ship we damage is one less ship attacking our people." She paused. Her next words came from somewhere deep inside her, from memories of old Earth and ancient wars. "We are coalition soldiers, but today we are something older. Today we remember what we were before we reached the stars. We were survivors. We were fighters. We crawled out of the mud and conquered our world not because we were the strongest or the fastest, but because we never ever gave up." She stood tall on her bridge, surrounded by her crew who had chosen to die beside her. "Today we are human, and we will show the galaxy what that means." The fleet opened fire. The HSS Resolve flew straight into the heart of the enemy formation. The battle for Prime had begun. Fleet Commander watched the human ship fly toward his armada. He laughed. The sound was like stones grinding together. "One small ship against 37 warships," he said to his officers. "These humans are either brave or stupid. Destroy them." His ships opened fire. Hundreds of energy beams shot through space toward the Resolve. Any normal ship would turn and run. Any normal captain would try to escape. Did neither. "Hard left now," she screamed. The Resolve twisted in a way that should have been impossible. The ship groaned under the stress. Warning lights flashed across every console, but they dodged the first attack. "Target their sensor arrays," ordered. "If they cannot see, they cannot aim." "Captain, their shields will block our weapons," replied. "Then get closer. Get so close they cannot use their shields without hitting themselves." The Resolve dove into the enemy formation. This was madness. Coalition doctrine said never get close to a superior enemy, keep distance, stay safe. But was not following Coalition doctrine anymore. The Resolve weaved between enemy ships, so close that the gunners could not fire without risking their own fleet. Small ship became a mosquito among elephants, too fast and too close to swat. "Fire everything," commanded. The Resolve's weapons were weak compared to warships, but at this range, they did not need to be strong. Energy beams cut into sensor dishes. Small missiles exploded against communication arrays. The Resolve could not kill these ships, but it could blind them. On the flagship, Orel watched with growing unease. "Commander," he said, "this is not normal behavior. Coalition species retreat when outmatched. These humans are attacking." Waved his hand dismissively. "They are desperate, nothing more. Send landing parties to the planet. Begin processing the colonists." 20 transport ships descended toward Prime. Each carried 500 soldiers, 10,000 warriors against 40 human soldiers and a colony of miners. Sergeant Major watched them come. She stood in the main tunnel, surrounded by her small team and hundreds of civilian volunteers. "Remember the plan," she said. "Let them land. Let them think they have one. Then we show them what humans do to invaders." The first soldiers stepped onto human soil. They expected crying civilians and surrendering soldiers. They expected easy victory. They found empty streets. "Search the buildings," the squad leader ordered. "Find the humans." His soldiers spread out. They kicked down doors. They searched homes and shops. Nothing, no one. Then the explosions began. Minu had spent hours placing charges. Under streets, inside walls, beneath floors, they walked into a maze of death. The first explosion killed 20 soldiers. The second killed 30 more. The scattered looking for cover, but there was no safe place. From hidden tunnels, humans appeared. They carried mining lasers meant to cut through stone. These lasers cut through armor just as easily. Workers who had never held weapons became killers. Teachers became snipers. Grandparents became bombers. An officer screamed into his communicator, "They are everywhere. We need support." But support could not come easily. The tunnels were too narrow for vehicles. The buildings were rigged with traps. Every step forward cost lives. Back in orbit received the reports. His landing forces were taking heavy casualties. His sensor arrays were damaged. And that tiny human ship was still alive, still fighting, still causing chaos. "How is this possible?" he demanded. "They are a minor species. They have no military strength." Aurel had been studying human history during the battle. What he found disturbed him deeply. "Commander," he said quietly, "I have been reading about these creatures. Before they joined the coalition, they fought many wars, terrible wars. They killed millions of their own kind. They developed weapons that could destroy entire cities. They invented ways to kill that even we have never imagined." "Then why are they considered weak?" asked. "Because they stopped," Aurel said. "They chose to stop. They buried their weapons and their tactics. They pretended to be peaceful, but Commander, I do not think they forgot. I think they were just waiting." On the planet's surface, the battle raged for hours. Led her people through the tunnels, striking and disappearing, never staying in one place long enough for them to catch them. A young volunteer named Sara ran up to her. The girl was only 19, a mining student. Now she carried a weapon and had blood on her face. "Sergeant Major, the evacuation ships are loading at the southern port, but forces are moving to cut them off." Nodded. "Then we stop them. How many volunteers do we have?" 60, mostly miners." 60 miners against hundreds of soldiers. The numbers were impossible. "It will be enough," said. She led her volunteers through the tunnels. They emerged behind the forces, catching them completely by surprise. Mining drills became spears. Construction hammers became clubs. When weapons ran empty, humans fought with rocks and fists and teeth. They had never seen anything like it. Species were supposed to surrender when beaten. They were supposed to value their own lives above all else. These humans did not seem to care if they died. They only cared about stopping the enemy. In orbit, the Resolve was dying. Fires burned in half the ship. Life support was failing. Most of the crew was dead. But was still alive, and she had one last plan. "Set the reactor to overload," she ordered. "Aim us at the flagship." Bleeding from a wound on his head, looked at her. "The escape pods, Captain." "Fill half with crew. Fill the others with our remaining warheads. They will not know which pods to shoot." It was cruel. It was horrible. It was exactly what old Earth generals would have done. Smiled grimly. "Understood, Captain." The Resolve made its final charge. Escape pods launched in all directions. The flagship fired at some, destroying them, but they could not catch them all. 2 pods reached the flagship. They did not contain survivors. The explosion lit up the sky above Prime. Died without ever understanding what kind of enemy he had awakened. In the colony below, humans looked up at the flash of light. They knew what it meant. The Resolve was gone. Their protectors had sacrificed everything. Now they were truly alone. But they did not give up. They did not surrender. They went back into the tunnels, back to their traps and weapons, and continued to fight. Because that is what humans do. The video spread across the galaxy like fire. Was a reporter. He had come to Prime to write boring stories about mining operations. Now he was recording the most important footage in human history. His camera showed soldiers falling to human traps. It showed miners with no training fighting like demons. It showed children throwing rocks at armored warriors 3 times their size. And it showed something else. something that made other species watch with horror and fascination. It showed humans refusing to die. On 1,000 worlds, beings of every shape and color watched the broadcasts. The Dominion was known throughout the galaxy. They had conquered dozens of species. No one had ever resisted them like this. "What is wrong with these creatures?" asked a diplomat from the Federation. "Do they not understand they cannot win?" "Perhaps they do not care about winning," replied his colleague. "Perhaps they only care about fighting." At Coalition headquarters, High Arbiter watched the same footage. Was ancient, over 2,000 years old. He had seen many species rise and fall. He had always considered humans to be boring, average, forgettable. Now he was not so sure. Ambassador stood before the Coalition Council. She was a small woman, barely reaching the chest of most alien delegates, but her voice filled the great hall. "The people of Prime are dying," she said. 40,000 humans, including 12,000 children. We requested help. You refused. They gave us 6 hours. You said help would come in 14 days. Raised one of his 4 hands. The Coalition cannot waste resources on a single colony. The strategic value. "Children," interrupted. 12,000 children. That is the strategic value we are discussing. Murmurs spread through the council. No one interrupted the High Arbiter. It simply was not done. Did not care what was done. "You want us to surrender," she continued. "You want us to negotiate with creatures who use the word processing to describe slavery and death. You want us to give up our people to save Coalition resources." She stepped closer to his platform. Her eyes were hard as stone. "We will not, we cannot, because we are human and humans do not abandon their families." His voice was cold. "Then your colony is lost. Your people will die for nothing." "No," said. "They will die for everything. They will die showing the galaxy what we are. And when this is over, every species will remember. They will remember that 40,000 humans held against the Dominion. They will remember that we asked for help and received nothing. And they will wonder what will happen when humanity stops asking." She turned and walked out of the council chamber. Behind her, the alien delegates sat in uncomfortable silence. Far from Coalition space, Admiral received an encrypted message. She was commander of Earth's home fleet, a force that officially did not exist. For 300 years, humanity had pretended to be average. They had hidden their best ships, their most advanced weapons, their most brilliant tactics. They had played the role of a minor species, barely worth noticing. But the home fleet was real. 53 warships built in secret shipyards, technology that would terrify Coalition scientists, weapons designed not for defense but for absolute destruction. Read the message twice, then she turned to her second-in-command. "Wake the fleet," she said. "All ships, full combat readiness." "Admiral, our orders are to protect Earth only." "New orders, direct from the President." His voice was flat. "Prime has 12,000 children. Earth has authorized any response necessary." The officer understood what that meant, any response. No limits, no rules. "How long to reach Prime?" he asked. 12 days at maximum speed." 12 days. On Prime, the siege was entering day 3. Could they last 9 more days? On the colony, asked herself the same question. The evacuation was slow. The Steadfast could only carry 5,000 people at a time, and each trip took hours. So far, 12,000 colonists had escaped, but 28,000 remained. And their defenses were crumbling. They had learned. They no longer sent small groups into the tunnels. Instead, they brought heavy weapons and collapsed entire sections. They poisoned the water supply. They cut power to the colony. Had lost half her volunteers. The others were exhausted, wounded, running out of ammunition. "Sergeant Major," Minu said, "the southern tunnels are breached. Forces will reach the civilian shelters in 2 hours." Closed her eyes. The shelters held 3,000 people, mostly elderly and children who could not move quickly. Can we evacuate them? Not in time. She opened her eyes. Her face was calm, but her heart was breaking. Then we hold the tunnels. Every minute we delay them is another minute for the Steadfast to return. We have 30 fighters left. They have hundreds. Then we make every fighter worth 10 of theirs. She gathered her remaining volunteers. Their faces were dirty, tired, and terrified, but none of them ran, none of them surrendered. I will not lie to you, said. Most of us will not survive this day, but behind us are 3,000 people who cannot fight, children, grandparents, the sick and the wounded. They are counting on us. A young man raised his hand. His name he was a cook, not a soldier, but he had killed 6 soldiers in the past 3 days. Sergeant Major, he said, we did not come here to live forever. We came here to build something worth dying for. Others nodded. A grandmother named checked her weapon. A teenage girl named tied her hair back, ready for battle. Felt tears in her eyes, but she did not let them fall. Then let us show these creatures what humans are made of. They took positions in the tunnel. They were coming. Everyone could hear the heavy footsteps, the grinding of armor, the clicking of alien weapons. The first appeared around the corner, fired. The final battle for the southern tunnels began. And across the galaxy, his camera kept recording. The universe watched as 30 humans stood against an army. They watched humans become legends. Day 12, Minyu stood at the entrance to the last bunker. Behind him, 13,000 people waited in darkness. They had no more food, they had almost no water, and they were coming. Was dead. She had fallen on day 8, holding a corridor for 40 minutes while children escaped. They had found her body surrounded by 17 dead soldiers. She had killed the last 3 with a knife when her gun ran empty. Now Minyu was in charge, an engineer leading soldiers, a builder becoming a destroyer. How long? He asked his remaining fighters. There were only 63 left. They will breach the outer doors in 3 hours, replied a former security guard who had become his second in command. After that, maybe 30 minutes until they reached the civilians. 3.5 hours, that was all the time they had left. The evacuation ships, Minyu asked. The Steadfast was destroyed yesterday. We have no more ships coming. Minyu nodded slowly. He had expected this. 19,000 colonists had been evacuated before the Steadfast died. The rest were trapped here, waiting for a rescue that would never come. Or would it? His communicator crackled. A voice came through, clear and strong. Prime, this is Admiral of the Earth Home Fleet. Hold your position. We are 12 minutes out. Minyu thought he was dreaming. The Home Fleet. He had heard rumors about secret human warships, but he had never believed them. Admiral, he said, we have 13,000 civilians in the main bunker. Forces will breach in 3 hours. Understood. We will be there in 12 minutes. Admiral, with respect, how many ships do you have? They still have 28 warships in orbit. There was a pause. Then the Admiral spoke again and her voice was ice. We have enough. In orbit above Prime, the new commander watched his sensors. Fleet commander was dead. 3 ships had been destroyed by the suicide attack, but the battle was won. The humans had no more ships, no more hope. Then his sensor officer screamed. Commander, contacts. Multiple contacts emerging from hyperspace. How many? The officer's voice trembled. 53 warships. The commander stared at his screen. The ships were huge, bigger than anything the coalition flew. They were black, shaped like daggers, and they moved with a speed that should have been impossible. Those are not coalition ships, the sensor officer whispered. Commander, what are those things? The answer came over every frequency, broadcast to the entire fleet. Dominion forces. This is Admiral of the Earth Home Fleet. You have attacked human civilians. You have killed human children. You have made yourselves enemies of our species." On the planet below, every surviving human heard the message. In the bunker, children who had been crying went silent. Old people who had given up hope raised their heads. "We do not negotiate with enemies," the admiral continued. "We do not accept surrender from enemies. We remove them." The commander tried to respond. He tried to explain that they could negotiate, that they could retreat, that this was all a misunderstanding. The humans did not listen. The home fleet opened fire. Weapons that the coalition had never seen cut through shields like they were paper. Missiles that moved faster than any known technology turned warships into fireballs. The human fleet did not fight like coalition forces. They did not keep distance. They did not try to minimize casualties. They attacked like predators, like monsters. Commander piloted the HSS Vengeance, the largest and most powerful ship in the fleet. She had trained her entire life for this moment. She had studied every human war, every ancient battle, every forgotten tactic. Now she used all of it. "Target their engines first," she ordered. "I want them unable to run, then take out their weapons, leave them alive but helpless." "Commander," her tactical officer asked, "why not just destroy them?" Smile was cold. "Because I want them to watch. I want them to drift in space while we rescue our people. I want them to understand exactly how badly they failed." This was not mercy. This was cruelty. It was psychological warfare perfected over thousands of years of human conflict. The fleet tried to fight back. They tried to run. Nothing worked. In 20 minutes it was over. Every ship was either destroyed or crippled. The home fleet had lost 0 ships. The new commander drifted in an escape pod, watching the human fleet move toward Prime. His last message to the Dominion was simple. "Do not send more ships. Do not fight these creatures again. We thought we were predators. We were wrong. Humans are not prey. They are not even predators. They are something worse. They are monsters who chose to wear the mask of peace. We tore that mask away. And now the galaxy will see what was always underneath." On the planet, Minyu heard the explosions in the sky. He watched through a damaged window as ships burned and fell. Then the bunker doors opened, and human soldiers poured through. Real soldiers, armed with weapons that made Minyu's mining lasers look like toys. A captain approached him. Her name tag read Sira. "You must be Minyu," she said, "the engineer who held out for 12 days with mining equipment." "I am just a builder," Minyu said. "I did what I had to do." Captain Sira looked at the exhausted survivors behind him, children clutching parents, elderly people who could barely stand, 63 fighters who had faced an army. "No," she said quietly, "you are not just a builder, you are human, and after today the galaxy will never forget what that means." Medical ships descended, food and water arrived, soldiers carried the wounded to safety. And for the first time in 12 days, the people of Prime allowed themselves to cry. Not from fear, not from despair. From relief, from joy, from the knowledge that they had called for help and help had come. The monsters had arrived, but they were not the enemy. They were family. 3 months had passed since the Battle of Prime. The galaxy had changed forever. The Dominion no longer existed. When their fleet was destroyed, their conquered species rose in rebellion. They had ruled through fear for 1,000 years, but fear only works when you are the most frightening thing in the room. Humans had shown the galaxy something more frightening than the Admiral sent weapons and advisors to the rebel species. Human soldiers trained former slaves to fight. Human engineers helped them build ships. But Earth did not take territory. They did not want new worlds. "We want you to remember," told the new governments. "Remember what they did, remember what we did, and remember to never threaten human children again." At Coalition headquarters, Ambassador stood before the council once more. This time, the delegates did not look bored or dismissive. They looked afraid. High Arbiter spoke first. Humanity has shown unnecessary aggression. Your response today was disproportionate. We demand that you surrender your hidden fleet to coalition control. Smiled, it was not a friendly smile. You demand, she said. 3 months ago I begged for your help. You refused. You suggested we surrender our children to slavers. You called their lives strategically unimportant. She pulled out and projected a list onto the main screen. These are the coalition members who refused to help Prime. These are the communications where Arbiter tried to negotiate our surrender without our knowledge. And these are the species who are now requesting military alliances with Earth. Murmurs filled the council chamber. The list of alliance requests was long, very long. Humanity will not surrender its fleet, said. We will not apologize for protecting our people, and we will not pretend to be weak anymore. His 4 arms trembled with anger. You have destabilized the entire quadrant. Species everywhere are now afraid of humanity. Good, replied. Fear keeps people honest. And frankly, Arbiter, species should be more afraid of what happens when they attack us than when they work with us. She turned to address the full council. For 300 years we pretended to be average. We hid our strength because we believed the galaxy wanted peace. We followed your rules. We played your political games. And when we needed help, you abandoned us. Her voice hardened. Never again. From now on, humanity will be exactly what we are. We will be kind to those who are kind to us. We will trade fairly, negotiate honestly, and work for peace. But we will never again hide what we can become when someone threatens our families. She walked toward the exit. At the door, she stopped and turned back. The choice is yours. You can be our friends or you can be afraid of us, but you cannot ignore us anymore. No one will ever ignore humanity again. On the rebuilt Prime, a memorial stood in the center of the colony. Black stone reaching toward the sky, covered in names. 8,847 names. Captain, Lieutenant Park, Sergeant Major, and thousands of civilians who had fought with mining tools and died standing. Minyu stood before the memorial. He was governor of the colony now. The survivors had chosen him, the engineer who became a warrior, the builder who learned to destroy. Behind him stood the people of Prime, old residents and new arrivals, soldiers who had chosen to stay, families who had come to help rebuild. I am not good at speeches, Minyu said. I am an engineer. I work with my hands, not with words. He looked at the names on the stone. These people were not soldiers. Was a patrol captain who never expected to fight a real battle. Was a sergeant who spent most of her career doing paperwork. The civilians on this list were miners, teachers, cooks, and doctors. His voice cracked slightly, but he continued. They became warriors because they had no choice. They fought with tools and rocks and bare hands. They died protecting strangers, protecting children, protecting the idea that human lives matter. He turned to face the crowd. The galaxy thought we were weak. They thought we were average, forgettable, not worth helping. They were wrong. An old woman stepped forward. Her name was. She had fought in the tunnels with a mining laser until the home fleet arrived. She was 73 years old and had killed 11 soldiers. We are not weak, she said, her voice steady. We are just careful. We choose peace because we remember war. We choose kindness because we know cruelty. We wear gentle masks because we know what our true faces look like. A young man joined her. The cook who had become a fighter. He still worked in a restaurant, but he trained with weapons every morning now. We showed the galaxy our true face, he said. We showed them the monsters underneath, and now they understand. Minyu nodded and looked up at the stars. A visitor asked me yesterday why other species should trust us. We are capable of terrible things. We proved that in this battle. He thought about Captain flying her damaged ship into the enemy flagship. He thought about holding a corridor until her last breath. He thought about crippling enemy ships and leaving their crews to drift helplessly, a cruelty designed to break spirits rather than just bodies. I told her the truth. Everything we can do to others we first did to ourselves. Our history is full of horror, but we survived. We learned. We chose to be better. He placed his hand on the memorial stone. We choose peace every single day, but the choice is always there. Cross the line, threaten our families, and the choice becomes very easy to unmake. He stepped back and looked at his people. Survivors and builders, warriors and dreamers, humans. The galaxy called us forgettable. They called us unremarkable. They called us weak. His voice rose. Now they know the truth. We were never hiding our weakness. We were hiding our strength. We were protecting the galaxy from ourselves. He smiled, and there was something dangerous in that smile. But we do not hide anymore. The masks are off. The monsters are awake, and the galaxy will never forget what happens when you hurt human children. In the crowd, people began to clap, then to cheer. The sound rose toward the sky, toward the stars, toward a galaxy that was watching and listening and remembering. On 1,000 worlds, beings of every shape and size heard the message. They heard it in the news reports, in the diplomatic speeches, in the whispered warnings passed from captain to captain. Do not threaten human families. Do not attack human colonies. Do not mistake human kindness for human inability. Because when humanity stops being kind, the true monsters of the galaxy emerge. And they remember everything.